Excellent stuff. Okay, well, welcome everyone. First Zoom call online, different Zoom call, and hopefully it is a Zoom call with a difference. The ethos of this call is very much the ethos that runs in line with the different event. I know many of you were there, some of you weren't able to be there, but really the essence of different is to equip entrepreneurs and change leaders to deliver their unique difference through their career or business. That absolute fundamental belief that the future that you have to make an impact in this world is actually in you. It's not something out there that you have to chase down, that you have to cross your fingers and hope that you manage to, at some point, reach or attain it in life, but it is actually in you. And we're going to talk a little bit about that throughout this process. But what I want to do is just give us a bit of an overview of our next hour together. I've got my good friend, Steve Daniels, with us. And Steve, I've got to know over the last, 18 months, Steve?
Yeah, 18 months thereabouts. Yeah.
It feels like a lifetime, mate, but that's a positive thing.
A lifetime of greatness, though. A lifetime of greatness.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what we're going to do is, the reason every call that we have in our different Zoom calls, I'd love to take somebody's story about somebody who actually is taking their unique difference and building their career or business around that story. And of course, this was something that we picked up on the event, that each of us carries a story, a micro narrative that is part of a meta narrative. In other words, just like the Avengers are full of these different characters with their own unique plot and their own unique story, yet the beauty of the whole Marvel and DC, the way it's put together and the actual brand is that essentially it's one big meta narrative that hosts these micro stories. And I think that's what was happening at our event in March. We were starting to unpack and unpick some of the micro stories that were in the room. And I think the hunger and the appetite towards the end of that event was, how do we keep this conversation going? How do we, I guess, pull the Avengers together? You are the Avengers. You can choose which character you are. But you are the Avengers. You're the people who want to create change. You're committed to making it happen. And what I wanted to do during this call is to really find out more about Steve's story. And then also we're going to have some interaction where we can break out into some smaller groups through Zoom, through the wonders of technology. And we can actually maybe take some of the things that we discuss and unpack them and bring our stories and our experiences to the table, because that makes for a much richer conversation. So, Steve, just give us a quick overview, your name, where you live, kind of family status, etc. Just give us a
star sign.
Anything you want to give us, mate.
All right. So my name's Steve Daniels. I live in Eltham, southeast London. Very blessed to have an amazing wife called Nicola and two fantastic children, which are my drive every single day. And also, I am the founder of an organisation called Strengthening Minds. In a nutshell, Strengthening Minds, we provide programs to support the emotional well-being of young people up and down the country. Something that I'm extremely passionate about. And as we go on with the call, I look forward to telling you more about my kind of journey and why I am doing what I'm doing today. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Mate. Fantastic. So from this part of the country, southeast, and born and bred. And Steve, through Strengthening Minds, essentially in a nutshell, if a business is solving a problem, and of course, the size of the business that or an organization that you're growing is determined by the size of the problem that you're solving. Yeah. Then what is, in a nutshell, the problem that you are solving currently through Strengthening Minds?
Okay, so as I'm sure we're all aware, mental health in young people is something that is a huge problem. Approximately 1 in 5 young people will suffer from depression by the time they reach adulthood. Suicide in young people is at an all-time high. And essentially, Strengthening Minds, we want to make sure that everyone understands the importance of, putting provisions in place to support that, to give young people the opportunity to speak about the way that they're feeling, to, motivate them, to help them understand that when times are tough, that there is a brighter future. And yes, a lot of the young people that we will work with don't always readily have, people like that available to them. And our sole purpose is to help young people live happy and healthy and successful lives through the work we deliver.
Wow. So if the size of the business or organization that you can grow is determined by the size of the problem you're solving, that is one big problem that is kind of being uncovered at the moment, mental health. And again, not just in young people, but across all ages, all generations. Then I would suggest that kind of you're probably just at the tip of the iceberg in the problem that you're trying to solve. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's fantastic work, as you say, rightly so, and people are becoming more aware of it. However, I feel as though the lengths that we can go to make it more apparent and more, more comfortable for people to explore, young people, adults, and that's something we really want to work on, because, it all starts with yourself. You will achieve as much as you allow yourself to, and that starts with being able to be happy, content, raising that self-esteem. So yeah, that is our mission.
Wow. So when it comes then to the size of the problem in education with young people, what is the current cost to the child in terms of their pathway in education if this problem isn't solved or dealt with? And also, what is the cost to the learning environment if you've got children who are carrying these issues, these problems, and obviously they carry that into those learning environments? What's the kind of cost that you've seen?
It's devastating. I mean, to be fair, a lot of these young people they all are decent human beings, and it's without that bit of guidance, they can make wrong choices. And we'll know as adults that as great we are as people, that sometimes in life you are faced with decisions, and one small mistake can be extremely costly. Young people that have been not worked with appropriately in the past, prison, growing up, going to school. A lot of friends that I was with at the time, some didn't have the correct life path. Death, suicide. I've witnessed school friends myself in adult life. Unfortunately, felt as though they had no way out and commit suicide. I mean, the costs are huge. And in terms of the life they live. And how fruitful that life can be, not understanding what is out there and exploring what makes them happy. So, without this support, it's extremely worrying. And on the flip side of that, we've got proof through our programs, not just Strengthening Minds, but a lot of people that work within this sector, that actually by investing that time and effort into these young people, we can see dramatic changes. No matter the background, whether that's a background of poverty or the changes can be remarkable, and that's something that gets us up every single day to go and do it. And to hear the success stories years on being stopped by people that still want to come and speak to you to tell you about what they're doing with a huge smile on their face, it's just the most rewarding thing.
Wow. So how long have you been running, Steve, in trying to solve this problem, or play a part in trying to solve this problem? And how many schools are you currently now in? And then the kind of next part of that is, in terms of the amount of children that you think you've reached with the program, what is that number? So just give us some idea.
Yeah, so we now run the Strengthening Minds programs in over 38 schools. So I think the exact number now is 39. So we have 39 schools and colleges that we deliver the program in, which is fantastic. It's been a lot of hard work, a lot of learning, but so rewarding. Personally, I've worked with over 1,500 young people across these schools, and in the school where I first started, personally delivering these courses. But with the Strengthening Minds model, where it's very difficult in terms of a business. We think about making money, but I wanted to create something that was cost effective, where schools didn't have to keep paying because it kind of defeats the purpose. So we implemented a model where we would deliver the program and train the school to independently take that forward with our full support. So with the schools trained up, that number more than doubles.
Wow.
You know, yeah.
So you create
well
something
over,
that's definitely scalable.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got another 20 schools set to come on board up in Manchester from January. And it's just fantastic. And to see the feedback from the staff and the young people themselves has just been extraordinary.
And how long has that been now since you've been running?
Oh, so I founded Strengthening Minds in October 2015. However, I was still at work in a school as a pastoral manager, which was fantastic. And, you know, I just saw a need for it. It was something that I was doing every day for young people that I knew. And I just kind of felt as though I've trained staff within my school now. It's time to break out. And that's where the kind of journey began. So initially, I dropped down from full-time to 4 days a week and just took a punt, followed my dream, didn't look back. And yeah, thankfully now with a long road, we've now got approaching 40 schools and things are looking really, really good.
Wow, 40 schools in pretty much 3 years is incredible. And I want to encourage those that are just listening right now. We've got a chat. You should have a chat in your screen on the right-hand side. There should be a small button there. As you're hearing this stuff, be thinking of questions that you want to ask Steve, or questions that you want to kind of bring to the table in terms of, the things that we're talking about here, whether it's from a business angle or whether it's from the subject matter of mental health and creating change in education in mental health or other sectors. Be thinking of questions now that you can be adding to the feed. Steve, we're talking about here the fact that you're trying to solve a problem, but this is personal to you.
Yeah.
And it's not just kind of, okay, let me come up with something I can do with my life. This has really come from your journey. So if you wouldn't mind, unpack a bit of your journey here, because as we've talked about in our event, before the change can come through you, the change has got to start in you. So you have been through a personal change. So just unpack a bit of your story for us.
Okay, I'll try and keep it as confined as I can. I mean, it kind of goes all.
That's cool. You go for it, mate.
Growing up, I mean, a lot of the young people we work with experience. Everyone's different, but some similar events that happened in my life. So, when I was around 6 years old, my parents split up. There was a lot of DV. Kind of issues that went on within the family. A lot that has been resolved now as an adult, and I'll come on to the brighter ending, which is fantastic. But and that played a huge part in my life. People would often, I was always excluded from school and really angry and volatile, and people would often say to me, why are you angry? But it wasn't a question that I could answer. One, because the way it was asked was more of a telling off. And when someone says, "Why are you angry?" you're hardly gonna. Yeah, but I just didn't know myself. I didn't know. I mean, we come from a poor background for a large part of our life. There was 5 of us living in a 1-bedroom flat. So it was my mum, stepdad, brother and sister. And it was incredibly difficult. I mean, I would dread non-school uniform days. Many children would enjoy it, but we didn't have the money to, my uniform was school uniform was my comfort, if you like. It allowed me to be like everyone else, So a lot of them difficulties kind of spiraled out of control. So I lacked self-esteem massively. I was never able to speak to anyone about the way that I felt. So if ever I was challenged, whether that was by a teacher or a member of staff or my peers, the only response I knew, it was like the world was caving in, all eyes were on me, and how I didn't like what I saw, so I don't want everyone else to see it. And it would come out in aggression. I was not proud of it. And obviously it's something that I relay to the young people I work with, but, being not proud of it, but excluded many times for, just dealing with situations in a poor way. So the long and short of that is that continued throughout my whole school life. And when I was 15, I kind of just gave up on school. I was never the most intelligent, and I certainly wasn't unintelligent. But, I left school and the options were kind of limited. But I was very, very lucky. And that's one thing I've realised, and that's really pushed me to do this job, is that there are so many people out there that do care. And I used to walk past this youth organisation called Central Eltham Youth Project. And one day this lady just literally grabbed me in off the street and just said, "I see you walk past aimlessly all the time." And and this youth centre were just amazing. They invested so much time and effort into me, helped me find myself. And so much so that they kind of like, how do you feel about some work experience working with young people? And that's where my eyes really opened. You know, it's funny that you said it's what lives in us. And obviously we have to work hard, but I feel like some things are embedded in us. And I just had a natural ability to speak to young people and to get the most out of them. So, yeah, so I did that for 3 years until I was 19. But unfortunately, again, funding the key word, the company was liquidized. So I'd gained a job through them, and I was back to square one. But square one now with a real purpose. I didn't have any GCSE, so I knew I had to go back to school. And I say that to the young people now, you know, when they're nearing the end of their school lives. You think school's tough now, don't go back at 19 and do it. When all my friends are going for their first pint, I'm sitting there trying to study. And it's hard. And I then, applied for a job as a teaching assistant in a secondary school in Eltham. I got the job, and it just opened my eyes. I mean, the young people were amazing. I worked my way up within a year, become the assistant manager of the school's inclusion. And in that time, this is where Strengthening Minds started to come into my head. A lot of the young people there wasn't much guidance for them. And there was a lot of sanctions in place, detentions, which weren't always the most beneficial. And I just thought, right, how do I get a group of these young people in a room and try and get them to speak about some of the things that they're feeling that I can relate to? And that's when I started writing the programs. And, 5 years later, it was embedded within the school I was working. It was something that worked. We trained other staff to become involved with that. And that's when I thought, right, I feel the time is now. This can go on a wider scale. And I just want to use my, life experiences and, even early 20s when I was working, bouts of depression and not feeling great about myself, and just trying to inspire others, because there is so, and I always think if I can do it, absolutely anyone can. That's kind of, yeah.
Wow.
Sorry.
No, it's brilliant, mate. No, honestly, it's fantastic. What I love about your story there, and there's a couple of things that jumped out at me. And again, what I'm looking for here is, because I'm aware that, we've got different people, different sectors solving different problems, but we're looking for principles here that kind of apply across the board. But what I love is the lady who pulled you in. There was an intervention from somebody into your life. And I think the heart of what we're trying to build here in this conversation, and we're just a part of a much wider conversation, but who knows how big it could go, is people who are not willing to just sit back, but are willing to intervene, that are actually willing to almost just that picture of that lady kind of pulling you in. It's a very vivid image that is a powerful image.
I mean, it didn't stop there, if I'm honest, just very quickly. It's a lady that I'm very, very close to now as an adult and as a friend. My actions actually led to me being kicked out of my house. As an adult now, rightly so, it was the right thing. It helped me grow. But obviously, as my youth worker, there was no way she could take me in. But she introduced me to her mum, and I lived there at their house for a couple of years, and they helped build my values and purpose. So that is a lady that, for the rest of my life, I'll be eternally grateful for, and someone that has left a real mark. And turning that round, that's what I want to be able to do. I want to be that person to the people I reach out to every day, in everyday life, as a professional and as a person,
That's amazing. And another thing that kind of jumped out from what you were saying there is, as a child, a symptom of the root problem here, which was a self-esteem challenge, how you perceived yourself based upon an environment that you grew up in, and obviously various other challenges, I'm sure. But the symptom was a reaction of anger. And, I think whether we're talking about children or adults here, we're all in the people business, for want of a better term. Life is about transactions of conversations and relationships. And we are often dealing with reactions. We're often dealing with symptoms. That could be anger. That could be timidity. That could be what appears to be arrogance or ego. There are many different symptoms. But what I love about what you've tried to do here is you've tried to create a conversation that almost goes underneath that reaction, that doesn't take that initial reaction as, well, that's the conclusion. He's just an angry young man, and unless he changes, he's got no future. You're not willing to take that initial reaction as a conclusion. And so how are you doing that in the classroom?
So in terms of the programs themselves, we will identify, or the schools will help identify, groups of students that will be withdrawn to take part in the interventions. But that transfers into the bigger picture in schools. We do staff training events for all of our schools. So every school that takes on board our program, it's all about self-reflection of the staff. It's about how do we, the same in any business, how do we speak to others in order to get the most out of the situation? It always has to come back to ourselves. So in terms of our group settings, it's firstly about helping them to understand that this isn't a punishment. Any work that we do, this is an opportunity. And I say the same thing at the start of every course, and I genuinely mean it. This is an opportunity, and if at any point you don't want to be here, you get up, you shake my hand. We'll always follow it up because, like you say, we don't want to just deal with them reactions and say bye. But once you put that ownership over to someone and they sit there and go, wow, this is actually for me. And that just creates an environment where people want to learn. We have the so-say worst children, which is a terrible phrase that will be used. And actually, they're the most amazing, tears and tears of joy, tears of sadness, but most importantly, through all of that, life learning. As much as hopefully I inspire, they're inspiring each other, and that has a knock-on effect throughout the school, and that goes into the classroom and into the local community as well. We do a lot of work with youth centres, which is brilliant.
Amazing. And again, one of the things that we picked up at the different event was this whole idea that it's about creating a conversation that currently isn't being had. And I think that's what you're doing. You're creating a conversation, because conversation is the currency of life. Usually a problem or an outcome that is unwanted that we're experiencing is down to a conversation that isn't being had. Yeah. And that could be staff issues. That could be, that could be between children that are angry or reactive. But usually it's because there's a conversation gap. There's a conversation that is missing, and either people are so busy trying to get on with what they're doing. And I guess in education, the biggest challenge is you've got a pressured environment for results. You've got to just get these results. And of course, we haven't got time for the conversations,
And I think with that is the conversation. The conversation is, we go to school, we're all told that we need to achieve academically, which is great. Absolutely. I mean, make the most of the opportunity. We're very lucky. However, I've seen some in school life, very intelligent young people. Academics are up there, social skills are down there, and actually that needs to marry up. And the conversation is being able to say, look, emotional well-being, social skills are just as important, if not more, than any academic grade that you can get. So for me, that is the kind of conversation that I'm consistently having with head teachers, with school governors, because like you say, it is a busy environment. The first question when you go into a school is, how does this work? They're going to miss this lesson. I'm like, they will miss 10 lessons of their school life to come and do this. And what can be achieved in that time, and the follow-up support is amazing. It's a no-brainer. So for me, that is the conversation. So
that's brilliant. Couple of comments here. Kelly said, very inspiring, Steve. Someone who's working as a teacher in challenging contexts. There are many people who care and want to build resilience in our young people. Thanks for sharing, being part of the story. Fantastic. And let's take a couple of the questions here as well. So from Simon, just talking about how did you start and what barriers did you face and how did you overcome them? So what are some of those barriers? How did you kind of get started?
I think it's been a strange journey. I can only ever be honest. And, I didn't get into this to be a businessman or own a company. I literally just enjoyed what I did and thought, right, you know, I'd be lying if I didn't want to make a better life for myself. Of course I do. But I just kind of thought, and my family, of course, I'm a dad. I want to give everything that I didn't get in terms of love. Money isn't a thing, but I don't ever want my child to go to school and have that same, you know, I'll take that nice pair of trainers away from my daughter the second she displays any terrible behaviour. She'll be back wearing what I did. But, you know, in terms of that, it's about yourself and feeling worthy. I thought at first, who am I standing in front of 90 teachers on my first ever day at Strengthening Minds, telling them that I'm going to be running this program? And I think that was the biggest barrier for me. It was actually self-appreciation and saying, do you know what? You are good enough to do this. And that's built my ethos. It doesn't matter what I go into now. Any room I go in, whether it's, you know, anyone, there's you know, there's no hierarchy, and it's valuing myself as a person, respecting everyone else. And
that's good, mate.
You know, dealing with knockbacks, it's part and parcel of everyday life, and certainly business. You know, when I went for a meeting and the school was just like, oh, thank you, but not for now. You'd go home and you'd question yourself, like, oh, maybe this isn't as good as I want. But you know what I would do? I'd go back to the workbooks that my children complete, the students complete. And we always have the same thing at the start of every session. It simply says, today I feel. And not 9 times out of 10, but a lot of the time, I hate my life. I hate myself. Things aren't great. We have an evaluation page at the end. How do you feel now? I feel lifted, ready to take on the world.
Wow.
So they're not, you know, when that knockback comes,
yeah, that's what it's about, mate.
Go, you know,
that's so good. So good, mate. Kevin saying, what an inspiration you are. Fantastic. Really good, mate. Question here from Colin. He's saying, are there any trends associated with boys and girls around the balance between emotional and intellectual well-being?
There are numerous kind of studies on that. And funny enough, when you go into schools, the vast majority, a larger proportion of the young people being asked to come onto the program are boys. So, you know, but again, it's something that we work on throughout the course. We don't say, right, you can have a boys group, a girls group. It is important to mix. You know, studies show that, you know, males are no angrier than females. We just deal with things in a different way. And it's raising that awareness. And at that age, I think it's so important that young boys can understand the triggers that young girls have, and vice versa. You know, and be able to have a meaningful session where they've heard about other people's thoughts, and then they go and relay that conversation, that message to their friends. Hold on, let's be a little bit careful about what we're saying here. But everyone's different. That's one thing that I've learned. I mean, there'll always be facts and figures, but every single young person is completely different, and we will always just work with what's in front of us. There's no limitations to the people that can come on. I mean, you know, a lot of our young people have special educational needs. I'm often asked, can someone with autism join your program? And I'm like, well, of course. You know, they're part of the world. You know, we might have to differentiate, of course, but we all have to differentiate.
So good, mate.
To suit others. So it's inclusive, and absolutely everyone should be able to take part. So
that's amazing, mate. Amazing. Just Simon saying, come talk to my team at Priory Federation of Academies Trust.
Oh,
Simon's involved with an Academies Trust, so private message him, and we'll make sure that you guys connect on here. And again, this is what this is about. This is about creating conversation that creates awareness and also creates collaboration. What I'd love to do is get one more question and then get us to discuss something that I think will just kind of enhance and enrich our conversation based upon what you've shared here. And actually, Kevin asked a question about how are your courses funded, and I'm going to connect that to a question here, which is, you know, if money were no object and resource was unlimited, what would you love to see happen across the sector that you're involved with?
That these programs, whether it's Strengthening Minds or another organisation doing great things, are embedded in every single school, from, you know, up and down the country. You know, primary level. I mean, we've just created a new program well, it's called the Positive Me program, and it's for children as young as 6 and 7, just promoting positive behaviour. So a whole class of 30 about the importance of being kind to others. And I mean, it's something that I'm driving for that to happen. You know, it has to happen. It works. And in terms of how the programs are funded, we've been very fortunate, even at a time where school funding is very difficult, schools are still funding it out of their own budget. So more and more they're realising how difficult it is. I mean, we've started doing a lot of work with housing associations, which has been fantastic. And their ethos of building up an area, and rightly so, isn't just about making something look great and then going, oh, okay, go back in with your same problem. And so now, you know, we've had a lot of programs funded through that. But as I say, every day is a learning experience for me. You know, I've got a long way to go in terms of my business mind and how the bigger picture works. But I'm always taking it in and learning. But one day we'll get it up and down the country. That's the plan.
Absolutely, mate. That is fantastic. You definitely will. Again, Rob from Swansea, South Wales, saying just started a youth project with YMCA and mental health in Wales. Would be great to chat. So again, another linked conversation there to be had. So let me throw this question out, and again, we'll come back and we'll keep the conversation with Steve going. But I want to get everybody involved in chatting. I know there's some people that are just listening online. So if you're just listening, that's absolutely fine. Feel free to carry on just listening. But some of you are visible and are ready to interact. So I want to give you an opportunity. Something Steve said about that picture of the lady intervening. I really believe that if we're going to really have an impact, the level of impact is really defined by the person that we know we're trying to reach. And, you know, people in marketing will talk about who is the person that you're marketing to. Essentially, they're saying, who is the person you're trying to impact? Who's the person you're literally trying to grab and kind of pull into your space? And so I guess I would love to get everybody talking about who is the person that you feel you are alive to intervene. In other words, who's the person you're trying to pull into your space? And I really want to encourage us, even if you think kind of you know the kind of area that you're trying to reach out into, I want you to try and define it even more, trying to specifically ask yourself, who is the person that I know my story can connect to, and I can have a level of impact? Because I often say, you know, you can help anyone, but you can impact someone. There's somebody specifically your story resonates with that somebody else won't resonate with. So I want to ask that question. Who are you alive to intervene? Okay, who's the person that you are pulling into your space? So I'm just going to give kind of 5 minutes for this. Let's try and get around everybody in your breakout group. I'm going to break us down. Let's see how many people we've got. Okay, we're going to break down into, let's go into 3 or 4 persons per room. So that's like a minute each on who the person you think you are alive to intervene. Okay, so let's create those breakout groups. Right now, you should have something that comes up on your screen that says join. Press join, okay? And you will join your breakout room. Okay, I can see you starting to disappear into your rooms. Okay, somebody in the groups take the lead in the conversation. That's great, you're all there. Welcome back, everyone. And hopefully you managed to get an opportunity just to share the person that you feel you're alive to intervene. I just love the image of who am I going to pull into my space that right now I believe I am a solution to their problem. I just think it's a great image that Steve's given us there from his story that, wow, what if we started every day just thinking about that person? You know, I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this, but my wife, who very often will struggle with the sense of, she speaks to crowds of people in a church context. Mainly, she runs her own women's conference, and sometimes she will self-doubt. She'll try and talk herself out of, who am I to stand up and speak in front of people, and what value do I have to add? And I always say to her, Leanne, think right now of the one person right now, the person that you can just see right now in your mind, that you just know you've got a message for, that even if that person was the only person in the room, that you could move them emotionally, that you can move them in terms of how you could impact them and start to change even just 1 degree the trajectory of their life. And I know she reflect back to me that really helps her, because sometimes you just think of the masses and you think, like, who am I? But I think it's, if you think about the one, if you think about the person that you're putting into your space, and of course behind that one there is a crowd of people that you can impact. So I just think, on those days when you wake up and you're thinking, oh man, struggling to get motivated, who am I pulling into my space? And Steve, just coming back to you, mate, because again, one of the things that you picked up on there in relation to the question that Simon asked about, what's the biggest barrier in starting? And it is that self-doubt, isn't it? It is that calling into question, I know it's a problem I'm trying to solve, but I'm sure there's somebody better than me right now who can solve it. So Steve, let me just unmute you and put the spotlight back on you. There we go.
Yeah.
Go for it, mate.
Yeah. So as you said, the biggest challenge always lies within, and I think it's, it's crazy to think, really, because I always, and my wife is my biggest advocate like that. When I sit there and she'll say, Steve, you spend your whole life helping others. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
always says to me, what would you say right now to any of them that situation was for? And I think that for me helps me all the time. If there's something, I mean, this is the first time I've done a call like this. I'd be lying if I weren't a little bit nervous. I said that to my wife, and she said, Steve, you do it every day. You do it. What would you say to me if I had to do a work conference call right now? Well, I'd say, you need to go and get your bum on the chair and off we go. And I think that for me does it for me every time. So whether I'm talking in front of 150 people, I always say to myself, imagine the advice that you would give someone else, and it is about believing in yourself.
Yeah.
And I think, one of the nice things from the breakout session that I had speaking to Kevin and Tristan, the words that come in were about honesty, integrity, trustworthy, and they are the most important things. And if you can feel that in yourself, then that whether it always goes to plan or not, that you did it with the right intention. That's what gets me to get up, go, defeat the demons in my head, and make sure that I'm giving my best all the time.
And I think you're right. That's I think part of whether it's the age in which we're moving into now. I certainly think one of the trends that I see in talking to different change leaders in different sectors is that, and I think it's partly a hunger and an appetite from the millennial generation and Generation Z, as they're now called, kind of sub 18-year-olds, is that they're not actually looking for polished, they're looking for authentic.
Absolutely.
They're looking for an authenticity. And again, something we mentioned at the event was, while people will be attracted to kind of our strengths because it shows that we're capable, actually we'll move people with our weakness, and our weakness includes our imperfections.
Absolutely.
So I think it's powerful what you shared there. It really is.
Thank you.
So let's kind of start to kind of bring this into land. In terms of across the groups now, what I'd love to do is just find out what is currently your biggest barrier. I want to do one more breakout, okay? And in one sense, this time together is just about keeping conversations going, almost to be a bit of a catalyst to maybe you getting somebody's name, number, taking the conversation further offline or online in your own Zoom call. So kind of bringing things to the table is just my way of trying to create those connections. So right now, for you as an individual trying to make an impact through your career or business, what's your number one barrier right now? Maybe for you that is self-doubt, that is kind of self-abasing conversations that you have with yourself, or maybe it may be a very practical thing. What's your number one barrier right now? So let me just put you in a final breakout, and then we'll bring us together to land this call. So I'm going to press breakout again now, and you should be into different groups, and off we go. Get to talk to somebody different. Press join. Well, welcome back, everyone. And I'm sure our conversations could go on for much longer, but the whole idea, just to get the conversations happening, connections being made, let me encourage you to get hold of email addresses, mobile phone numbers, or whatever, of some of the people that you have met. And I will also make sure, oh, can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me? Yes, you can. Fine. You're just saying that I was muted for some reason. I'll make sure that this Zoom call, which is recorded, the breakout rooms aren't recorded. It's just the main kind of front end of this conversation is also made available to you. We'll send that to you by email. Want to say a massive, massive thank you to you, Steve. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on this call, and I know that you were due to be with us for the event, and you booked in for the event, but something came up last minute which meant you couldn't attend. But it was just fantastic to have your story shared with us during this time. Just anything you want to kind of sign off with, Steve? Just I'll unmute you so we can hear you.
I think for me, I just want to say a huge thank you firstly to you for giving me the opportunity to come and speak on here. I mean, meeting you with the work at Charlton. Oh, I've just got a video of myself. I can see myself. Is that
you can
normal?
see yourself, mate? No, that's good. We'll put the spotlight on you. That's why.
Oh no, God, it's what everyone else has been seeing. No, but anyway, you know, like for me, just want to say like a massive thank you. Like you're really inspirational, Gareth. And it's people like you and the other people I've met through this video call that really, you know, that really push people to achieve their goals and make them better people. So yeah, just a big thank you, and thank you for everyone for taking the time to listen. Gareth, I've seen messages pop up along the bottom as time's gone by, but this is all new to me, so it's a bit overwhelming. So if you wouldn't mind passing on my email address and contact details, I'll be
absolutely. I'll send out your contact details, Steve, with the link to the video of this session, so they can watch it back.
Amazing.
And again, then you're able to, I think I can export as well the chat, so you can see everybody's email addresses in there that's shared. So yeah, if you want to put your email address or your number in the chat, then, and if you're happy for everybody on the call to have that, then do that.
Absolutely.
So thanks, Steve, for that. Just a couple of kind of notices really for everybody. I want to make sure that we've got the next call ready for you. So if I just quickly share this with you, then you can see this screen. Let me just press play. So next Zoom call, we're planning for the 4th of June, same time, kind of 8 till 9. My guest is another friend of mine, and his name is Brett Mabley. Brett is from Birmingham, or just outside Birmingham, and he was with us for the event in the Intercontinental O2 back in March. Brett is a performance and people intelligence specialist. put it in a nutshell, people bring Brett in to basically read their behavior. And so he's very interested on the whole thing of body language and behavior and what it reveals. And kind of his whole thing of drive and performance through human behavior is kind of his key topic. And I think, again, his story behind how he's ended up doing what he's doing is incredible. And so you won't want to miss that on June the 4th. Get it in your diary. I'll add the invite to the email I send out so that you can put your name down straight and get that in your diary. So make sure you get that in. That's confirmed for June the 4th, 8 till 9 p.m. And also, tickets are now there for the September the 28th event. Again, we're wanting to build on what we did in March. It's exactly 6 months between the two dates. And so what would be great, and again, just as we were talking about the whole thing of who we're pulling into our space, it would be great to pull somebody along with us maybe to this next event. It may be that you want to invest in somebody and say, hey, do you know what? I think there's more in you. Come with me. Be part of a conversation that could quite literally start to shape how you outwork your life purpose. And again, we're at the Intercontinental O2. It worked as a venue, and you can get your ticket for that through Eventbrite. Again, I'll put the link to that in the email that I'll send out. So guys, I just want to say thank you so much for joining this call. I think we started well, and it's not the end. Steve, thanks for your time. Thanks, guys, for your conversation. And we look forward to keeping the conversation going on June the 4th and all your conversations that you're having in between with one another. Take care, guys, and have a great, great evening.